So I understand this is going to be recorded. People are watching remotely. So let's make this lively and make them wish they had actually shown up to be here in the room. Because in the room is always better than remote. So just to look at who here has heard of PricewaterhouseCoopers? Okay, so PricewaterhouseCoopers is where I spend most of my professional life. It is a big accounting, tax, and consulting firm, by about 300,000 people globally. I was a partner in that firm. So I'm a retired partner. I was a client service audit partner. In addition to that, I was also the technology practice leader for the firm. So I ran the practice that served technology clients. I was a client the client experience leader, so think about customer experience. I ran those programs for the firm. I was also an operational improvement leader. I ran our operational improvement programs for the firm. So how do you make the business more profitable? How do you make it more efficient? How do you make more money? How do you provide better service to customers? I was on the global leadership team where I was in charge of human resources, human capital for one of our lines of business, which is about 80,000 people globally. And I was also the leader for transforming our analog business, historically analog consulting business, to a digital business. So that's what I did for 35 years of my professional life at PwC. Today, I am a board director. I do executive coaching. I do some consulting, but I like to spend most of my time skiing, mountain biking, hiking, and hanging out with family and friends. So I would tell you over the course of my career, it may sound impressive, it's not really, but I've had the good fortune of flying, traveling all over the world, being involved in a lot of different businesses. My clients were in technology, software, artificial intelligence, manufacturing. So I've seen a lot of businesses. I was involved in running the PricewaterhouseCoopers business, which is a $50 billion global business. So I've seen a lot of things around the world. I would love to share that experience with you here today. Since I've got you as a captive audience and the rest of you that are watching on video, I can take you as a captive audience through like a bunch of slides that I put together, but I'd much rather talk about what you want to talk about. So why don't you tell me what you'd like to get out of this next hour, and we'll see if we can pull that off.
Kind of just hearing like what your experiences were like working in all these fields. I mean, I see you have a lot of leadership background.
Yeah.
Kind of your experience of being a leader and what you felt like was successful in you being a leader, and also what like wasn't successful with you being a leader and leading teams.
And so what works, what doesn't work?
Yep.
Okay. What else? What else you guys want to hear? Back row real estate posse.
How you became optimistic?
How do I?
Like be more optimistic?
How do you be more optimistic? Or how do you stay optimistic?
Yeah, both.
Okay. That's a awesome question. Okay. It's a rough world out there, right?
Yeah.
Hard to stay optimistic. How about you?
How did you get yourself into those leadership positions?
Okay. But how did you get leadership roles? Never said I was good at them, but we can talk about getting into them. What else?
What were some of like your most greatest accomplishments in like jobs you've had?
So what are my proudest accomplishments? Yeah. Okay. How about were asked, what are your biggest failures?
Let's hear those as well.
Let's hear those as well, accomplishments and failures. All right. Anything else?
So you mentioned that one of the companies, or you traveled a lot for different companies, and one of them had to do with AI. So what's your opinion on AI?
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I am going to do this. So I love these questions. They're awesome. I think if we start going through some of the things I put on the slides, we're gonna hit some of this. We might have to pull out a little bit and look at the bigger picture, but I think some things in here are worthy of your questions. And the way I started putting these slides together was I thought about what, if I could go back in the time machine, what would have been the 5 things that I wish I had known when I was graduating college, so I could have put those things into practice then when I was 22, rather than just knowing them now, many years later. So if you've ever heard the Chinese proverb, you can't put tea, or you guess you can't put more tea. I copied and pasted it, so I guess it was wrong in Google. So there's the number one problem with AI. You can't rely on, but you can put more tea in a full cup. What do you think that means? What do you think it means that you can't put more tea in a full cup?
On a personal level, you can't take on more than you can handle,
Okay,
your limits.
yeah. What else do you think it might mean? That's a good interpretation, but it wasn't the intent. Good interpretation wasn't the original intent. It's if you think you know everything, you're not going to learn anything. Okay, so number 1 is be a learner. Okay, I just turned 60. The longer I live, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know shit. Okay. And if you think about all of the knowledge in the world today, it's tremendous. And it doubles every 12 hours. Every 12 hours. And that doesn't count all the things we don't know yet. And I know when you're young, it feels like you know everything, you have a point of view on everything, you feel really smart. The best advice I can give to you is go out into the world and be a learner, not a knower. Be a learner, not a knower. The 2 most powerful tools you have in your kit is asking questions and listening. And I want to link this to the AI question, which is a great tool. But the number 1 skill you need to have to make AI valuable is knowing how to ask questions. Knowing how to ask good questions. That's not just AI though. That's in your life. Never stop the first question, ask the second, ask the third, ask the fourth, keep drilling down. That's how we learn, that's how we understand. Way too many people, when they come out of college, after they've worked for years, even when they become an expert, think they know. And it's a big assumption, that's a big mistake. Start with you don't know, open your aperture. Even things that you think aren't right, explore them, understand them. Try to understand the assumptions. You might learn something new that you never thought was true. And everyone in every situation has something to teach you. And I want to link this back to the question on optimism. What was your name again?
Shelby.
Shelby. There are a lot of challenges in life. I mean, life is full of suffering, challenges, and hardship. And if you look at every one of those things as something bad that's happened to you, you're gonna have a real miserable. But if you can look at every event, even the ones that you don't like, as an opportunity to learn something and grow from it, you can be more optimistic. You don't have to be happy. You don't have to be happy that something bad happened to you. But you can start to look at things as a series of opportunities for growth. And that can keep you more optimistic. Otherwise, the world can just feel like a big weight. And every day is just another negative event. Okay, that's one way you can keep feeling optimistic. And I would tell you, we're going to talk about failure now for a moment. Your failures are going to be the things that are going to define you in the future. I don't know if you've heard of the phrase, the hardest steel comes from the hottest fire. Okay, it is those hard things in life, it is those failures, it's when you get knocked down that are going to teach you what you need in the future to be successful. So if you get down on those moments and you start to blame other people and you get negative, you're not going to learn from it because you're only looking at the negative aspect of it. But if you look at it as an opportunity, yes, I got knocked down. Yes, I failed. Yes, I had to close my business. But what did I learn from it? And how is that now going to take me next level? And if you look at every really good entrepreneur that's successful, they were not perfect. Their track record is literally failures. But that's how they get better, and that's how they succeed. Okay. Number 2. If you own your story, you get to write the ending. What do you think that means?
You have the ability to make what you want happen.
You make your experience. So number 2 is practice radical responsibility. Take ownership for your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, your feelings, and everything that comes out of it. Okay, that's radical responsibility. That's what empowers you. Now, a lot of people don't like to do that because it's easier to blame others. Okay, but this is where the power comes from in your life. It's owning the fact that I made these decisions, and as a consequence, these things happen. I feel this way, but it's my choice. That is true power. When you blame or deny responsibility, you give your power away to other people, and you become a victim. Now, you guys might all be sitting here saying, not me. I don't do that. I'm not a victim. I'm not a blamer. I take responsibility. Well, I would suggest, I would invite you to examine your language and listen to what you say. Because your language is a reflection of how you think. So do you say things like, my boss made me angry? Or do you say, I chose to be angry? Do you say, traffic made me late? Or do you say, I'm late because I didn't leave on time? Do you say, you are making me sad? Or do you say, I'm choosing to be unhappy right now? Do you say, my teacher gave me an F? Or do you say, I earned an F? Listen to your language. Listen to other people's language. We live in a society of victimhood and blame. Okay, everybody is pointing somewhere else for their misfortune. And if we want to go back to the optimism thing, how do you stay optimistic? Well, it's hard to take radical responsibility because you're pointing at yourself. I did this. I made this choice. But that is how you can feel optimistic, because that's where your power comes from. If you're giving it away, if you're giving away your power, if you're a victim, you're just getting knocked around like a pinball every day. This person made me upset. This person made me angry. I'm frustrated because of them. Talk about pessimistic. So own your life, own your power, practice radical responsibility. By the way, you want to become a leader? You have to learn to take responsibility, not only for the things that you did, but for things that your team did. And to live in accountability as well. What happened? I screwed up. I made the wrong decision. Not blaming other team members, not blaming other people in the organization, but owning it. And then saying, and now this is how I'm going to make it right. That's the leadership that organizations look for. Anybody hear this one before? Come on, you guys must have heard that one before. Okay, you've heard it before. What does that mean? What does it mean to you?
To me, it kind of means that, well, basically what it says, when we can't control something, that we just kind of have to let it go, like be okay with it.
Yeah. So what are the things that you control?
How I feel, what I do with my time,
Okay. What else you control?
but a lot of things.
Okay. What else?
My car when I'm driving.
Hopefully, maybe, not on the ice. I'm going to suggest that maybe it's not a lot of things. You control what you think, the decisions you make, the actions you take, and how you feel. That's kind of it. Everything else, you can maybe influence, but you can't control. Okay? So there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to happen around you that you can't control. My suggestion is to live in acceptance. Okay, so what does that mean? It is acknowledging the reality of what is. It doesn't mean giving up. Okay, it doesn't mean rolling over, not getting out of bed in the morning because I can't control all these things. But it's realizing what you don't control and not spending a lot of time suffering, complaining, trying to emotionally manipulate things around you in the hopes that it's going to change, but it's not, because it is what it is. And I can't tell you how many people in the world of business spend time, spend calories running around talking about, oh, this should have been like this. I should have got that promotion. We should have had a better quarter. Our customers should have done this. Well, they didn't. It is what it is. So now what are we going to do? So acceptance is the other side of the responsibility coin. It's understanding and accepting what is out of your control. Responsibility is acknowledging what's in your control. Acceptance is acknowledging what's out of your control. So we can learn from the past, but we don't have to suffer about the past. What's that mean for you? So again, watch your language. I should have taken that job. Oh, I should have taken that job. Right? Have you ever heard like somebody every day, they're talking about something that they should have done? I should have done this. I should have done that. Well, you didn't. Get on with it. Move on with life. We're wasting time, energy. And again, when we talk about leadership, who wants a leader that's talking about what we should have done or what should have happened in the past? We want a leader that's looking forward into the future and creating vision for what can be and what actions we can take in the present moment to make that happen. Not focusing on things that we can't change or have impact over. So you can't change the past. Your only power is in the present moment. So I didn't come up with this, but I love this phrase: stop shitting all over yourself. I should. Get on with life, move forward. All right. Looking at the list here. We're making progress. By the way, I think that's another piece of optimism, is acceptance. If we're spending time looking backwards, we're not in the present moment, we're not looking forward about what things can be, but we're just complaining and suffering about the past. All right, our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it. If you're getting into business, probably one of the things you guys hear about and think about is the world of stress. My view would be, don't let stress manage you. You have to manage it. So the first thing you have to understand is, what is stress? Stress is an internal response to external circumstances. There is no thing in the world that is inherently stressful. It's only stress. Things are only stressful because it's our reaction to them. Does that make sense? Did you hear that? Or do you want to challenge that? No, I got a test coming up. It's stressful. Everybody stresses out when there's a test coming up. Do they? Some people get more stress than others. How can that be? Well, it's because it's about how people react to the circumstances that defines what stress is. It is the fight or flight response. Okay, so what it means when we get stress is that we're afraid of something. We're afraid of something that's going to happen in the future. And we're trying to control it. Stress is probably the number one thing, the single biggest thing that's going to potentially have an impact on your life. It affects your health, your well-being, your mental state, and your lifespan. 80–90% of primary care doctor visits are due to chronic stress. And when you look at lifespan, the thing that far more influences how long you're going to live and what that end of life is going to look like are your choices, including stress, not genetics. So how you live your life and how you manage stress is going to be huge. And man, you want to talk about leadership? Do you want to be on a team where when something goes wrong, the leader comes in and is like, ah! And you want somebody that's calm, that doesn't get stressed, that can take a situation, break it down, look at it objectively and say, okay, folks, this is what we're going to do. You want somebody that's going to bring calm to a situation, not somebody that's going to escalate the situation. And if you're stressed, what are you probably going to do? Are you going to bring calmness or are you going to bring escalation? You're going to escalate it if you're stressed. Everybody's going to sense it. Oh my God, we're screwed. The leader is stressed, right? But if the leader is calm, if you're able to bring calmness to the situation, people are going to want to follow you. So what does this mean for you? Stress is a reaction. It is learned. So you can learn to make a different choice. It's not easy. It feels like it's automatic. It feels like it's a reflex, but it's actually a learned reaction to the circumstances of life. So you can learn to undo it and do it differently. I think one of the things that will benefit you for the rest of your life will be to learn practices to interrupt and manage stress. Those include meditation, breath work, and learning to reframe situations. Reframing is just another way of thinking about something. Okay. Oh my God, I missed my flight. I could get stressed about that. Or I can reframe it. Maybe that flight was going to crash. Maybe I'm gonna get on the next flight and I'm gonna meet an awesome person. Maybe that person will turn out to be the love of my life. When you start to reframe things, you can start to feel different about them. Classic one is road rage. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, you get pissed, right? And you want to speed up, get in front of that person. I'm indignant that person did me wrong. Well, if you could just stop for a moment and go, what if that person has their young child in the back of the car and they're racing to the hospital? Would you feel differently? Probably would. You just reframed it and your anger probably just came way down. Okay, so you can use internal dialogue to start to change how you react to things. Okay, how are we doing on time? Good. Awesome. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you do, but they will never forget how you made them feel. When I ran customer experience for the firm, it was one of the most valuable opportunities I had because I learned a lot about human behavior. And we focused on how we're treating our customers, but one of the things that I learned was that if you want to really create long-term value for yourself as a business person and as a human being, treat everyone you run into in your life as your valued customer. When you invest in delivering value and a positive experience to other people, you're investing in yourself. You never know what position other people are going to be in later in life. And they might have an opportunity to help you. You might look at them now and go, oh, this person's never going to be able to help me. But you never know where somebody's going to turn up. Don't burn bridges. Even when you have to break a contract, lose a customer, change out a partner in a relationship. I don't mean a romantic relationship, I mean a business relationship. Don't burn bridges. Try to find a way to make it work for everybody. And remember, you can learn something from everybody. Everybody you run into has a story that you can probably learn from. So if you treat them well, you'll have an opportunity to benefit from them. What does this mean for you? Building long-term relationships and networks starts now. Actually, it started a long time ago, but you guys should be focused on that now. Who's in my network? Who am I getting to know? Who do I know on LinkedIn? How do I help other people? How do I help other people achieve their goals and help them be successful? When you do that, they're going to want to help you. Seek win-win solutions. Not everything needs to be a win-lose. You might have the upper hand, you might have leverage, you might be able to create a win-loss situation with a customer, with a vendor, with a partner. But instead of doing that and taking advantage of them, if you can create a win-win where you both win, they're going to be a fan of yours. They're going to know that you had them over the barrel and you could have taken advantage of them. But if you don't do that, you're going to create a relationship for life. Okay. Let me take this one back to leadership here too. It's not just your customers that are your customers. Your employees, your colleagues, your team members, they're all customers too. And when you help them be successful, they will run through a wall for you. When you help them achieve their goals, they will run through a wall for you. And that is how you create people that want to follow you. And by the way, I think it was Shannon, right?
Shelby.
Damn, it's close. This actually feels good. When you do things for others and you help them be successful, it feels good. So you want to talk about optimism? This doesn't mean you have to give away everything, but just help others, help them be successful, and that will come back to you tenfold. Okay, those are my top 5. Let's just see if we hit some of these. Experience being a leader, what works, what doesn't work. Okay. One of the things that doesn't work is trying to use authority to get people to do what you want. I'm in charge now. You're all going to listen to me. Nobody's going to listen to you. And every chance they get to sabotage you, they will take. Great managers get people to do what they want them to do. Great leaders get people to want what the leader wants. So, one of the things that you have to do as a leader to get people to want what you want and to follow you is you have to find out what they want. You have to find out what success means to them and help them achieve it. It has to be a two-way street. If it's just all about the leader and all about accomplishing what the leader wants, sure, they might do what you want for a while, but ultimately, they're not going to follow you up the hill. They're not going to run through a wall. They'll just do it because they have to do it. They won't do it because they're loyal to you. When you create value for your team or your colleagues, people will want to follow you because you're creating value for them. It's kind of like the same thing is true in all of life. If you create value for other people, they're going to want to be around you. If you don't, if you're the person that just extracts value over time, people are going to run. It won't last long. So I think that to me is the biggest lesson in being a leader. The other one is learning how to trust other people so that they can lead as part of the team. Trust other people to lead and make decisions. And that's a hard thing because if they get it wrong, it's really on you. So it's finding that balance between delegation and allowing people to make decisions and trusting them.
Yes, especially for that. How do you do that?
How do you do that? So how do you trust them to make decisions?
Exactly.
So one, there's some experience in there, spending time with them. The second thing is understanding whether or not they're capable before they do the work or the decisions. And that comes through a dialogue of, let's say you were going to go run a project for me, okay? What might typically happen is you go do it, and then when you make mistakes, I tell you what you did wrong. Instead, if I say to you, okay, you're going to run this project, why don't you tell me how you're going to do it? Walk me through. What are the key milestones? What are the key risks? How are you going to address them? Asking questions, right? And I listen to you, and now I'm going to know fairly quickly whether or not you know what you're doing. And in those places where it sounds like there are gaps, I can do some coaching. But my confidence level is going to be a lot higher because I've listened to you describe how you're going to do it. I didn't just turn it over to you and say, here, go do this. So some of it is just my experience, but the bigger thing is me spending time with you as a person that's going to do the work and having a dialogue on what's going to happen so I can understand whether or not you need more help or coaching or support. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Sometimes too, you just got to take a risk. And it's a managed risk. You know, if it's a 2-week project, maybe I'm checking in 3 or 4 times. All right, I want to make sure we're hitting all these. How about optimism back there? Do we cover optimism, or do you need more?
I feel like we covered it pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you stay optimistic?
Changing perspective. Like you said, with when someone cuts you off, you try and like reframe it. With the analogy that you used with someone trying to get their child to the hospital, I usually say like, maybe they just really need to go to the back. So it's just like changing how you think about it.
I'm going to give you one other thing, which can become your superpower. And that's gratitude. Okay. Every day you can get up and you can think of 100 shitty things that have happened to you. But all you need is one positive thing that you can be grateful for, and you can stay optimistic. I guarantee everybody in this room has at least one thing that they can be grateful for. That, for me, is one of the powerful ways to stay optimistic, because there is so much in life that we can be grateful for. And you woke up today and you breathe. You got something. All right. How did you get your leadership role? So I would tell you some of it's luck. Just in the right place at the right time. But more importantly, I think it goes back to this notion of showing the ability to create value for other people, that you have an interest and you have an intent to not be self-centered. It's just about me. But I am interested in creating value for the organization. I can create value for our customers. I can create value for people that work here. And I think if you demonstrate that, people want to put you into positions of leadership where you can do that. So always be thinking about, how do I create value here for the stakeholders around me? Do that, good things happen. Accomplishments and values. Yeah, juicy. So I believe that when 2012, the firm was going through a rough time in the regulatory environment with quality, and I came up with the idea of using Lean Six Sigma. Anybody know what Lean Six Sigma is? It's process improvement. Okay. One of the best things you guys can ever go do is just learn a little bit about process improvement. Lean, Lean. There's a good book called The Lean Entrepreneur. Learn about process improvement, because everything is process. So I came up with this approach at the firm. I proved it was hugely valuable, and over time, so that was a big accomplishment. I love doing it. I built a great team, high-performing team, and over time, the firm dismantled it, and they sent me to global, and be on the global leadership team. So it was a great accomplishment, and in my view, it was also a failure, because the firm couldn't figure out how to scale it, and I did not do a good job of marketing. But here's the other trick about the thing, about optimism and acceptance. Even though it was a failure, it led me to my next job, which was a great opportunity, where I got involved in digitizing the business, and I ran human capital, which was something new. So one door closes, another opens. There's always something on the other side of failure. Opinions on AI. Great tool. It's just a tool. It's not gonna take over. The bots aren't coming to kill you. You know, it's gonna be a really good tool, but I can also tell you, I'm an investor in 2 AI companies. I'm an advisor, and there's not a lot out there that really works. A lot of it's smoke and mirrors. So I think it's coming. I think there's going to be value to it. Like, ever since I started in the world, in the professional business work world out of my graduate degree, there's always been the next technology that was going to change the world. And we were only going to work 2 days a week. And, we wouldn't need human beings anymore. It was the computer, and then it was the laptop computer, and then it was the internet. The promise never followed, or what's realized never follows the promise, right? It always falls short. So I think AI is a great tool. It can be a great tool, but right behind it's quantum computing, and that's going to be even bigger. So, what's the context of the AI question? Why did you ask that? Are you thinking about going into?
No, I just heard like professors recommend, like we can use AI to further our like knowledge. You can either use it to like help you on assignments, or you can use it as a study tool.
Yeah.
So
it's a great tool. I use it for contracts to write a first draft of contracts. I will use it for legal research, but that doesn't mean it's right. So you also have to go and check on it and make sure, like I'll put things in Chat GPT and then I'll put it in Grok, I'll get different answers. Which is right? I don't know. So you got to go do your own research too. It's just information. It's just a tool that goes out and grabs information. That doesn't mean that information is good. That's wisdom. That's wisdom and knowledge, is the ability to discern what is good information from bad. And that comes from life experience. That comes from going out and doing things. It comes from analyzing and evaluating. And AI is never going to be creative like humans can be creative. So good stuff. Use it, but don't rely on it. All of life experience does not happen in there. I'm pointing to your laptops. It happens out here. Okay, it's this stuff. It's the face-to-face, the eye-to-eye communication. Yeah, as an auditor, I could go in and sit with a CEO or a CFO and talk to them for an hour, and after a while, I would kind of know whether or not they were telling me the truth or they were bullshitting me. Just from experience and sitting in the room with that body language, eye contact, how they use their verbal language. That doesn't work over the computer. That doesn't happen over Zoom. So, living a life and fully experiencing it and getting the knowledge and wisdom to be a full human being. Use that word very purposefully. Being, not human doing, but human being. Being in the world and experiencing the world and having a full life is about this stuff. That's why human person.
Great.
Saying nothing bad about the person that's going to be here on Zoom next week.
She's from California.
We make an exception for that. Okay, what else? How much time we have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Lightning round.
Yes, about failure. What is the biggest failure that makes?
My biggest failure?
Yeah.
Ah, jeez. I really try not to think that way.
So reframe it. What did you learn from your biggest failure?
I'll tell you, when 2 years ago my wife broke her leg skiing. We were on Christmas Day, and her daughter actually ran into her. And I actually felt like that was my fault. I mean, I felt like I failed her because I was skiing behind them. Maybe I could have seen that they were skiing too close. I mean, this is really unnecessary beating up of myself over something over which I had no control, right? that was hard to get over, but I had to keep telling myself, it's not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility. I know you want a business failure, right?
Yeah.
I think there was, the one I feel was the biggest personal business failure was somebody that worked for me. I helped them become a partner in the firm, and they personally failed. They got fired from the firm. They had an alcohol abuse problem. They're now going through a divorce. And I feel like that was a failure because that was a person that I groomed and developed, and I didn't see, I feel like I didn't see the signs early enough to help them, get them into therapy, get them into counseling to prevent the blow up. That I felt like, was a failure as a leader, was a failure as a friend. But, so now I'm going to give you the other side of reframing. I also know, so I can have compassion, I can feel bad, I can suffer a little bit about that. I also know that this is their journey. And if they're able to come out the other end of this, they will come out stronger with a lot of lessons learned and will be able to help other people that go through that same struggle. So I try to take some comfort in that and feel so good. Is that what you wanted to hear? No. I got fired from Haldor, which was a retailer, when I was in college. That felt like a huge failure. That make you feel better?
No, when I say what failure is like for me, I remember when I was back in my country, it was a girl. She made me feel like broke up, and just for me, this failure, it made, I don't know, this vision of life, like to keep going, work hard, to do my personal, maybe this kind of stuff. That was kind of a big question. What made
Well, that sounded
change.
personal, right? You broke up with
Yeah,
somebody.
it was personal, but it kind of influenced my.
It motivated you.
Exactly.
Well, again, this is like the reframing, right? It's like you can either suffer. I mean, you could have stayed where you were, and you could have been like, "Woe is me," and maybe stalked her. I don't know. You could, but that's a choice. But you made a different choice, and you said, "I'm going to use this as motivation to now go do something else." And I feel like I know I've had a lot of failures. I know I've made a lot of bad decisions, but I think one of the things I've been able to do is to use that as motivation for the next thing. Like that's going to push me, that's going to propel me. And I'm sort of like, I think I'm a little bit of a never give in type person.
Like,
It's like, okay, there's got to be some reason and there's something next.
Right.
I always feel like there's a bigger reason, bigger purpose for things. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I can believe it, it helps. One last question.
Yeah, one last question.
From the teacher.
Oh.
No, anybody else? And if nobody else, then
I did want to bring up a point. So do you guys remember last week we had Bobby Macy, who had his video production company, and he talked about how much business he has generated from LinkedIn, and it was a lot of money, remember? And so what happened, I was on LinkedIn and I saw a former colleague of mine that owns an ad agency and put out a message, and he said, like, emergency, I need a video production company by the end of the week. Do any of my LinkedIn family know of someone who can do this? So I tagged Bobby Macy, and he talked to the president of this ad agency by the end of the week, and he got the job. So when we all talk about making connections and being on LinkedIn, It's true. Really, it's being on LinkedIn, building relationships pays off legitimately.
I think there's a part two to that,
Okay,
which is you also have to ask. Right? And there was an ask there. I need something. Can somebody help me?
oh, right,
Right?
yes.
And so a lot of times I see people afraid to ask. So I have an old relationship on LinkedIn and I saw the guy became the CFO and I said, hey, you guys ever need a board member if you're going public? And a month later, he called me up. He's like, we're going public. We need a board member. Never would have happened if I didn't ask. You can't be afraid to ask. You can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to have people say no. A lot of people are going to say no. But that's, even if 1 in 100 say yes, you're doing great. Keep asking.